Back to that Kevin show with Kevin McCullough.
And we're back from Times Square. Yes, that Times Square, the Times Square, where Justin Awad himself often takes his camera, and I think he trips people up a little bit that don't intend to be tripped up. They think the question's kind of simple. Justin, one of my favorite ones recently is the guy you asked about where Joe Biden was born. And instead of coming up with a location, he told you where he thought he should be. And there is this kind of, and I don't know you can get this in any other city, but in Times Square especially, there's this kind of raw honesty that people are just going to give you if they're bold enough to talk to you. And there's obviously a lot of personalities that you talk with, and you have to kind of sometimes coax things out of people. But what have you learned? And you're studying biology, you're pre-med, you're gonna go into the world and try to heal sick people in some way. What have you learned about the world around you through this process? What have you learned about people? What have you learned about their general knowledge of being informed, and what kind of impact that makes on the world around us?
Yeah, I've learned like a lot of valuable information, or a lot of valuable lessons, I think I'll put it that way. Because like I'll go up to like a group of kids, like, and they're all in a circle, like 5 or 6 of them, be like, oh, like, hey, does anyone want to do an interview, whatever? And usually the leader of the group or whatever,
there's
like,
always one star, right? He's like,
there's always one star. And that one star is usually the one that gets a lot of the questions wrong. So it shows, like, the way I see it is like, there's a value on information. And okay, this kid might not know all the questions, but he's the one that's leading the group. And if he leads the group to start doing bad things or wrong things, like that can impact the other kids who might know the answers, So like the way I see it is, people are like, oh, like the future, like we're screwed. We don't know any information. We don't want to work hard, all that stuff. And yeah, maybe that stuff is true, but I think that there's like a value of it, like how valuable really is knowing like 3 times 3 times 3 versus how valuable is knowing like person to person skills or communication skills or like having confidence. Like there's other factors that I've realized that really they all intertwine. Like I just see life like it's almost like the thread of like the shirt. Everything just like comes together like that. So it's hard to weigh things. That's what I've learned.
Well, and I like I said, I think this is your groundwork for your thesis for your psychiatry degree. But on some level, so oftentimes when we're producing the show, my kids will see some of the stuff that we do ahead of time, and they love it when I have segments from you on a given night, because my 13-year-old wants to make sure that he knows the answer to all the questions. He's kind of my science engineering kid, so he gives his brother and sister a hard time for not being as smart as him, and they're 2 and 4 years respectively younger than him. But it has engaged them on the level of they want to be more knowledgeable because they see what lack of knowledge is doing. And they don't just see it through the people that you interview. They then connect the dots and say, well, if somebody honestly believes that Michelle Obama was the first, female vice president of the United States, and they don't know that she was never an elected office holder in the country's history, then they suddenly realize that people are making voting decisions on stuff that is not accurate. And it's in some ways it kind of lit a flame for them to be more in search of the truth. Yeah. And I think that ultimately, if it does anything towards that extreme, towards that end of things, I think you're performing a major public service for us.
Oh, that's great news to hear. That makes me so happy to hear. I love that. Like a little thing that you just brought up to my memory was I was in vacation. Where was I? I think I was in Hawaii when a teacher came up and she was like, oh, like, do you mind if I take a picture with you? Of course. And like, I like to talk to people and stuff. So we were talking a little bit, and she
broke out the camera and started interviewing her.
The teacher, right? No. And she told me that she teaches like 5th grade or 4th grade, something like that. And she says she plays my videos to the class to like let them realize that there are people out there that don't know the information, that the information is valuable and important. And so like whatever, I took a picture with her, and she said she's going to post it and frame it in her room, like in her schoolroom, whatever, because she shows the videos. And that like made me so happy, because I like, that's awesome if we can have like a whole like turn of like the young generation wanting to know the information. Like that's awesome. Yeah.
So if people want to support your effort, they can buy your Yes and Company gear. Where do they go to find that?
It's on the link in my Instagram. They can click right there. And coming up this week, there's going to be like new shirts coming out and stuff. And 100% of the profits I make, I'm going to donate. And I haven't decided where, but to some education school, something like that in this area, because I think that like that would be awesome to do, to impact some kids' lives and help that whole sector, you know.
It would keep you on brand and on message. Justin Awad, please come back and see us again sometime, and keep making the videos. We have too much fun here on Saturday nights because you're out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. Kevin McCullough coming back from New York. Don't go away.
Ready or not, he'll be right back. That Kevin